welcome to Nothing But a Podcast with me, your host, Giles Thomas. And of course, we are joined by the 8-time Mr Olympia, Ronnie Coleman, but we have a very special guest, Chad Nicholls. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us.
No problem.
Thank you for having me.
Chad, now, this is a huge honor getting you two on together. Have we created a bit of a reunion here? Or, I mean, when was the last time you guys hooked up, when you spoke? When was the last time?
I think maybe it's been a few months. It's been a while.
Yeah, been a long while.
Yeah.
Everybody been busy.
Yeah.
So then, Chad, obviously,
What's that?
Sorry. So obviously, the huge, the big thing is, I mean, now we're in the kind of era of everyone having coaches, but back in the day, I mean, you were really one of the first kind of super coaches of the very, very top pros. How did you get to meet Ronnie, and how did that all come about?
It's kind of an interesting story. Both sides of it. I was actually a police officer at the beginning of my, I guess, working career, and I was a young kid. I was a police officer for 5 years, and Kim's career kind of took off, and so we started meeting all the guys. We met, everybody. She was under contract with Weider, so we did a lot of traveling. And the one thing that I noticed was that these guys were kind of all over the place. Like conditioning on one show would be good, next show would be bad. I was talking to them, and they were just kind of trial and error. Like nothing was consistent. And so I started, thinking like, listen, there's an opportunity here. And so I decided to, take a shot. And I remember talking to my lieutenant, and I was like, hey, listen, man, I'm gonna take a year's leave of absence, and I'm thinking about trying to become like like a professional trainer to professional athletes. And he was like, man, that sounds like a hell of a deal. Like that sounds like a really cool thing. Like, does that pay well? And I go, well, I don't think it pays anything right now, but I think the potential is there to make some money. And he's like, okay, well then that doesn't seem like such a good idea then to leave the police department. And I took a chance, took a year's leave of absence, and never looked back. And I worked. Obviously I worked with Kim, I worked with several amateurs, but in '97 I worked with Nasser El Sambadi, who was a very good friend of mine, and Paul Dillette. From there at the Olympia, Flex Wheeler approached me. Then I worked with Flex in '98. And then it was actually Flex that ended up hooking up me and Ronnie, which was probably the dumbest decision that Flex ever made. But Flex would, but I've talked to Flex numerous times, and he said, nah, he said it was the smartest thing, because if I would have never introduced you, the world never would have been able to see Ronnie Coleman at his best. And, he was proud of making that decision, although I have a feeling he would have liked to have won the Olympia that year, but it never happened for him.
Yeah, you would have liked to have won the Olympia. Come on, man. Everybody wants to win the Olympia. That's bodybuilding. That's why we do it. But, everything happened for a reason, though, And it did happen like that. I'll tell you how it happened with me. Me and Flex had always been kind of like friends. I think I met Flex back in like '93 or '94 at it was a French pro Grand Am, and he had just won an Arnold. What year was that? Was that '93?
'93.
'93. He had just won an Arnold, and he decided to do the tour. They had a European tour right after that. They had one in France and one in Germany. I'm like, damn, Flex is pretty good. And he coming over here winning these shows, and he ain't even dieting. Flex was eating like hamburgers, and I'm dieting my ass off. So I said, I'm gonna go to Flex's room. I was still, drug free at the time and everything. And actually, I think this was '94. Did he win Arnold in '94 also?
That was Kevin.
No. Yeah, LeBron the following year.
Oh, okay.
It was probably '93 after the tour for the Olympia, maybe. Maybe it was after the tour at the Olympia.
Yeah, I went to Flex's room. He gave me a lot of advice on, bodybuilding, because I just got into the sport. I didn't know that much about it. I got in at 90. I started at 90 and turned pro in '91. So I'm still learning. And Flex taught me a whole lot of stuff about it. So in '98, you know, we had stayed friends the whole time. In '98, he's like, man, who you working with for your diet and stuff? I'm like, nobody really. He said, I got this new guy named Chad. Why don't you give him a call? I'm like, oh, okay. So I called Chad, and he didn't call me back. So I called Flex. Hey, Flex. I called that dude Chad, man. He didn't call me back. He said, oh, man, he just like that. You just got to keep calling him. I'm like, okay. So I called him again. And I think this time he called me back like 2 or 3 days later.
I'm still like that. I'm still hard to get on.
Me too.
So that was the first encounter you had with Chad then, and that was the first time you ever really spoke, Ronnie.
That was the first time I'd ever met Ronnie. Yeah.
Exactly. First time ever. First time ever meet. I was getting ready for the Canada Pro Cup in '98, and I asked him a couple of questions. He's like, I ain't gonna be able to make it to Canada, so I can't help you out there. I just tell you what to do. He said, but you got the night of champion the next week, and I'll be there, so we'll be able to work, you know, hands on. Of course, I went to Canada and won that show. Then I went to the night of champions. Chad showed up, and that's when we worked together. Our first time working together was at the night of champions in 1998. Of course, I won that show too.
And then, I mean, and I remember, but then after that show, like, that was the first time we got to, like, really construct a game plan for the off season.
Yeah.
And, like, I remember getting, like, because this was back in the day where you had to send pictures. And so we would, like, Ronnie would take pictures on Monday, overnight them to me. I would get them every Tuesday. Like, it was like clockwork. But I remember in the off season, this is before we started the diet for the Olympia. In the off season, his body literally just grew every set of picures. Like,
wow.
It was ridiculous.
Yeah,
and
I take with a camera.
Yeah.
Send them to him. So they were, you know, I go to Walgreens and develop them.
Wow.
Send them to him. Tonight them.
It was and I remember looking, you know, like every friggin', you know, like every time we got those pictures, like I'd be like, Kim, this is crazy. Like, this is crazy. Look at these damn pictures. And she's like, let me see the last week's pictures. And she's like, this is nuts. Like, this is nuts. And, like, I mean, it was just progression. And I remember, you know, like, talking to, like, me and Tom Prince was, you know, really good friends at the time. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, you know, he's like, what do you think? You know, and they were asking, like, you know, how's Flex looking? You know, and this is right when we were getting ready to start the diet for the Olympia. How's Flex looking? And because he was kind of the heir apparent. Like, you know, Dorian was competing.
Automatically win.
Yeah, and so everybody thought, like, he was going to win, and they thought maybe it was going to be a little bit of a battle between him and Nasser. Like, how's Flex looking? How's Nasser looking? And I'm like, man, they both look really good, but, man, I'm telling you, like, Ronnie looks crazy right now. Like, crazy. And they're like, yeah, but how does Flex look? And I'm like, Flex looks great, but I'm telling you, Ronnie looks nuts. and so he came out and guest posed for me. This is Tom Prince. Tom Prince and Dennis Newman came out and guest post for me. And this was about 4 weeks out. This is about 4 weeks out from the Olympia. I had literally just picked up pictures from my P.O. box. And I was headed to the airport to pick these guys up. I had just received the pictures. It was 4 weeks out. And that was at the point I realized nobody was going to beat Ronnie that year.
Really?
And I got these pictures, and so we were talking and stuff, and I go, hey, man, I'm going to let you look at these, but I go, you got to keep these on the down low. Like, you got to keep these hush-hush. And I showed these, and they just kept passing them back and forth. And Tom was like, dude, does anybody know what he looks like? And I go, no, nobody knows what he looks like. He goes, you realize, like, nobody's going to beat him. Like, they're going to shit when they see him. And I'm like, yeah, I know, dude. It's just going to be crazy. Yeah.
So what was that? The thing is, I mean, this is back in the days when, you know, you had one set of pictures per week. Now you got coaches sending pictures every 2 hours after every meal. So, I mean, I've seen thing is, though, I've seen some of the pictures, and they're not the greatest kind of taken pictures, you know, but even right. With that, you could still tell how good he was and how impressive he was looking from a 35 millimeter print.
Yeah.
100%. And here's the thing that he did, like, he took the pictures at the same time,
right,
every day, literally pretty much under the same lighting and the same atmosphere, most of the time in the same outfit. And so it was literally just, you know, a repetitive set of pictures that showed the progression of how he, how he got better. And it was in my opinion, it was a unique time. Obviously, it's great now because you can see the pictures in minutes. Like they take a set of pictures, they forward them over to you, and you get the pictures, and it's instantaneous, right? But there was something very unique about the fact of going through that process, being able to see everything, the timing aspect of it, because, you had to basically be able to time what you were doing based off of, you knew that he was going to get these pictures, and then it was going to be 24 hours before I got the pictures. Then we would make the adjustments and changes, and it was just this kind of unique process, back in the day. And sometimes, in a way, I don't think it's better, but you had to literally be like on the ball, like 100%. There was literally no room for error because if we kind of like messed up something, it took another 24 hours, to get the pictures to see, if we needed to make more changes. So you had to be very repetitive and right on the money.
Yeah, it was on the phone a lot, like almost every day or every other day, something like that.
So and we had the same hour. Ronnie was up late at night, so we worked out really well because he was up all night too. So
yeah, I had to go to bed till 4 a.m. every single night.
So that prep from.
I got to remember, I worked full time for the police department back then too.
So that prep from the Night of Champions to the Olympia, what were the biggest changes you implemented with Ronnie's entire kind of approach to his contest prep, Chad?
So we definitely ate more food. Like we definitely ate more food. We changed not only this, like everything was obviously very consistent, very, like structured in the off season. And I think Ronnie was doing everything pretty good, but we became like a machine in the off season. It was very repetitive, but the food amounts went up drastically. That's the one key that I remember.
Yeah, he pretty much changed everything that I was doing, basically. Everything, except for my workouts. He increased my cardio. I was doing only like 1 hour a day. I went from an hour to 2 hours.
2 hours.
I went from eating like 10 ounces of chicken and steak, turkey, to like 16 ounces. And it was the hardest thing I ever did in my whole entire life. I'm sitting there eating all this food, and I'm like, man, I can't get this down. I had to start out from I went from maybe 10 to like 13, then it was 14, then it was 15, and it was finally 16 ounces. It took me about maybe 2 months to be able to eat all that food like that. Yeah. That was the hardest thing I ever did in my life.
And it's one of the hardest things for everybody to do because everybody, and I've had this conversation with 100 athletes, like everyone. I'm like, listen, we're going to have to do this. We're going to have to do this. But I said, the food's going to be the toughest part. And they're like, listen, man, I could eat anything. I could eat nonstop. And 4 days later, they're like, there's no way in hell I can eat all this food. Like, no way.
It takes a long time to learn how to eat it. It's not easy. You think you can eat all that food because you think, I'm always hungry, and I can eat anything. You can't do it until you have to practice it. It's like practicing, like getting ready for something. You got to practice that too. It's like everything is practice till you really learn how to do it.
And the thing is too, like even when we got to that point, we had to keep adjusting stuff because Ronnie just kept getting bigger. So the bigger he got, the more food his body demanded. And so we had to just keep constantly staying up with that. Body just kept coming forward. So the food amount obviously can't stay the same. One of the biggest mistakes most people make is they get into kind of a groove. The body may make steps forward, but if you don't adjust with it, body will come right back to where it was. And so we had to constantly keep adjusting food. And Ronnie was unique because, he never really, like we didn't ever hardly eat fish. Steak and pretty much chicken, turkey. We didn't do virtually no vegetables, which I'm not really big on a lot of vegetables anyway during contests. I want to make sure that the carbohydrates are, utilized versus just filler. And so it was a very straightforward, approach that is very tough to do every day in and out, repetitive every single day.
Very, very hard to do. Very hard.
Was there a good variety of foods?
Yeah, I can tell you the foods right now. grits in the morning. You know, we split between rice and baked potatoes. We went steak, chicken, and occasionally boneless, skinless turkey breast. That was pretty much it. Like, that was staples.
Wasn't no big variety of nothing. I didn't even eat yams back in those days. It was just white potato and rice for carbs and grits.
Yeah.
That was it.
Did you have any digestion problems? Obviously, with the constant increase of food.
No, I didn't have any digestion problems because I had to train my body to do it. I didn't just try to do it all at one time. I couldn't go from eating 10 ounces to 16 ounces. I had to go from 10 to 12 to 13 to 14 to 15 until I got to 16. So once I trained my body to do it, it was okay. Once I got there, I was fine. It was no problem for me to eat it. But it took me, like I said, it took me 2 months, literally, to teach my body how to digest that food, get used to digesting that amount of food. There was a lot of food. I was eating 6 times a day.
What was the kind of increase in size and strength from that, though? Oh, yeah.
I went from, what was I weighing in my last show? Like 230 to like 245. So I gained about 15 pounds of muscle.
First Olympia, I think we walked on stage that morning at 247. I think that was,
At 247, my first Olympia.
Yeah.
And I had been like 230, 235 most of the time.
And it's interesting because now everybody's like so hung up on weight. And, I'll be like, listen, man, weight means nothing. I was like, dude, Ronnie was one of the biggest human beings ever to walk on stage. And I said, he won the Olympia at 247. And they literally argue with me. It's like, Ronnie never weighed 247. I'm like, he won the Olympia at 247. I can promise you. I can promise you.
Yep. I won the Olympia at 247 and the Arnold Classic at 247. Yeah.
Whoa, clear out the room, I'm coming through, they wanna see what I'm about. Yeah, I got skills, do it for the thrill, I'm on a paper route. Extra, read about it.